Welcome back to the Macro Golf Podcast. Joe and Sam here from Macro Golf. We just wanted to start this episode by letting you know about the Macro Golf app. Now, if you're enjoying all of the content on golf fitness and performance and you want to start getting into action and actually starting to perform some of these tasks, then the Macro Golf app is where you need to be. Sam's going to let you know everything that the Macro Golf is going to include for you.
We have over 150 mobility videos, 20 plus different training programs, 250 exercise library videos, our golf swing speed training plans, tons of different flow routines, our golf fitness journal, plus tons more. If you guys do want to take advantage of this, for our podcast listeners, we're going to give our 10% off. So if you go to macrogolfonline.co.uk/app, click sign up and enter the code podcast10. You'll get 10% off there, and we hope you like it.
Yeah, let's get into today's episode.
And we are back, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Macro Golf Podcast. I'm joined with Joe. Joe, how are we doing?
All good, thank you. All good. Busy. But we're getting into the time of the year where we actually get to have a rest, which is...
Yes, August.
Good. August needed for us.
Absolutely. August is a lovely month when hopefully the weather stays nice, although it's not at the moment. Clients start going away and we can actually, personally anyway, I can start playing a bit more golf, which is always nice.
Definitely.
Yes, exactly. We got a really interesting topic today. Cued on from one of your clients. I believe you're having a conversation with them earlier this week about this, and it's kind of reasons why you feel like day to day your golf swing can change. That's not through long kind of swing changes that you're trying to make, but why some days you seem to potentially hit it further than others, or stiffer, or it just feels slightly different. So we've come up with 5 reasons why your golf swing can change day to day.
Yeah, and specifically, none of these reasons are technique based in terms of, some people say, or it'll hit a bad shot, or they'll swing it bad one day and be like, I need to go and have a lesson. I'm going back to my old ways. I'm coming over the top again. My path's changed, or this, that, whatever, or my whatever. And we believe that there are 1 million different ways why you can swing the club well or not well in a specific moment or on a specific day. And we're hoping to spread the word a little bit more on all of the other reasons that you potentially could experience this that are not related to specifically technique and the golf swing. So basically everything but the golf swing.
Everything but the golf swing, which is kind of what encompasses what macro golf is all about, really, right? We look after everything but the technique of the golf swing. Let's dive straight into it then. So number 1 reason why you feel like your golf swing can change day to day is warm up or lack of warm up, or maybe a slightly longer warm up. Everything. We got tons of different reasons within warming up, how that could affect why you feel like your swing or the way you're delivering the club, what the ball flight's doing can change day to day.
Yeah. 2 great examples of this, right? One, for anyone that's tried to make a swing change, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that listen to this have tried to make swing changes. It's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to make solid swing changes to your golf swing. The difference we see, though, in the way that people move and the numbers on TrackMan or whatever device you want to use to measure space of 5 minutes of warming up is crazy. Literally, the perception of what people feel, how far they hit the ball, how fast they swing it, how loose they feel, the consistency of strike, all of these things change so drastically in 5 minutes of warming up and not warming up. It's madness. And I know we've done our warm-up episode and people can go back and listen to that. But if you don't think you swing it differently with no warm-up as you do when you're fully warm, it's just not right. It is different.
100%. It's one of my favorite things to do with clients when talking about warm-ups, and especially if they're really trying to get handicap down or for a tournament or whatever that reason might be, is we'll get them in the studio straight away without doing anything, get them on the radar, get them swinging their club, and just get 3 or 4 normal swings, just see what the speed is. Do a quick little 5-minute warm-up that I get all my golfers to try and do. One of my favorite ones, really short, sweet. Do exactly the same again, just kind of on course, what you feel like your swing would be. The jump is insane. And that's just in the numbers, but then getting the kind of the feedback of how their swing then feels they all then say, yes, it feels like I'm swinging, I'm rotating more, and it's slightly longer, and it's a bit more fluid. That's all not really quantifiable within. Well, we don't have that data anyway. But as well as the speed going up, you're getting all these other stuff, and it's just from a 5 minute warm up. It's a massive, massive change.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what's also important to note here, because I'm always like to play the other side, is it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to play better,
No.
but it'll be different, right? No one can deny the fact that it's going to be different. So some people say, "Oh, I don't warm up," and they start well, right? They play within themselves, they plod round, they don't swing hard or don't swing fast, they just chip it down to the fairway, chip it onto the green, two part, won't work their way into it, and then they start hitting bad shots maybe when they're a bit warmer, right? Like that could happen.
Yeah.
But what we're saying here is your golf swing significantly can change within 5
Yes.
minutes of warming up and not warming up. We believe that you're going to be more optimized to hit better shots when you're warm, obviously. But we're trying to get people to understand some of the reasons why they might be swinging it slightly different day to day, right?
Yeah.
Why one day can we go out and shoot 72 and the next day shoot 82?
Yeah.
You know, apart from bounces here or there, you can swing it differently. You can swing it better some days than others. And generally, how well prepared we get our body will determine on how well we swing the golf club that day.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Right, Joe, dive us into number 2.
It's my favorite one.
Go on.
Number 2 is my favorite one. Basically, we're talking about the environment, right? So this is a hot topic for English people in the summer. We love talking about the environment and the weather and different stuff. And for sure, the environment will affect how you swing the golf club. For sure. For sure. We played in the wet the other week. Absolute drenched.
Awful.
Glove wet, grips wet, everything wet. There's no way I was swinging that golf club the same as I was a month before in the bright sunshine, right?
Yeah.
Like it's completely different, right? You're going to swing the golf club differently. Your grip pressure is going to change. You're going to be a little bit unsure on your footing. You might slip a little bit. You might start to use the lower body a little bit less. You might swing a little bit slower, a little bit more within yourself. If it's colder, you're definitely going to swing slower. You're going to be wearing different clothes that are going to restrict you. You know, no one likes swinging in a waterproof. That's why I don't own any. And all of these things are going to affect the way that you move and affect the way that you swing. And it doesn't get emphasized enough, I don't think. The environment is a huge factor. We play in any weather, you and me both, and you've experienced it as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It is one thing that clients often kind of that golfers mislook when they're kind of talking about, right, we all want to be consistent, right? You always want to kind of play within there or thereabouts your handicap. It's just not going to be feasible. If it's raining and windy, like these are things to take in consideration that's going to change your swing naturally, right? Without even thinking about it. If you're facing wind off the right, naturally your body's going to make changes, even if you feel like you're not doing that. You're just, if you, especially like you said, with you being colder and your muscles being colder and a little bit stiffer, you're just not going to swing the same as you would if it was 25 degrees out, shorts, t-shirts, in the sun, all relaxed, muscles going how they should do. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're saying this is not necessarily better or worse, right? Like you might actually,
Just
some
different.
people play great in the rain because they take it a little bit steady, you know,
Yeah.
as we said. So we're not saying better or worse. We're saying why do things change? And
Yeah.
when things change, we need to be observant of all the possible things that could be. And there are hundreds of different reasons why you might swing the club different from 1 minute to the next, 1 day to the next, 1 week to the next. And it's not just all about that lesson that you had the previous week or that lesson that you didn't have. There's so many other things that potentially could play a part in that. So yeah, it's a favorite of mine. Weather, clothing, environment, all that type of stuff. Definitely makes a difference and should be considered.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one. Now, this is one that I've battled with a lot as a semi-new golfer is situation. Situation, whether that's playing a new course, playing with someone else that you don't know, or playing in a competition. This can massively change how your swing feels. I'm going to take it back. Eagle, the 1 year anniversary. We were still in the first tee. I think I hit my 3 hybrid, the furthest I've ever hit it, purely just because I was absolutely full of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like that is not a swing that I would normally make on if I'm playing with my dad around our local club. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to happen. All these things, all these different situations can change your golf swing.
Agreed. Yeah, it changes tempo, changes speed, changes grip pressures, changes so much stuff gets changed. And we're not even talking about path and all
No.
of this stuff, right? We're just literally talking tempo,
Yeah.
speed. There's so many things that come into it. As you said, like if you've got out of bounds one way. All of these things make a difference day to day. If you're playing a golf course that's a little bit tighter, if you're playing a golf course that's open, if you're playing, all of these things are going to make a difference. I mentioned it on a previous podcast with Peter Arnott, very, very coach that I like a lot, and he says, situation changes movement is 100% the case. Like,
Absolutely.
this is it's not a technical thing as such. It's a situational thing that changes movement, and it's it comes from psychological, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've all experienced it. We've all hit bad shots in tough
First tee
conditions.
nerves and things, all of that
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like that. Then and that's where people say, "Oh, I slipped back into my bad habits there because I was doing X, Y, and Z." So yeah, but the situation did that. This is not
Yeah.
something that's so deeply ingrained in you that now you're always going to hit that shot in that way. It's just that situation in that moment. That's what came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely happens. 100%. Last we saw Brian Harman the other week. He was very good at maintaining this, like, under this pressure, right? He didn't let the situation affect his movement. He
At
didn't
all. Yeah.
let things affect him. He just stuck with his game plan and just went through. And this is a good example of how this stuff doesn't affect him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being able to withstand that situation and not let it affect his movement as much. Well, we don't know. Well, obviously, he still hit good shots, and maybe it
Yeah.
did affect his movement. Maybe if he watched himself back, maybe if we had him on TrackMan, I don't know. Maybe it did affect his movement, but it didn't affect the result, right? Which I suppose is what we're most interested in.
Yeah, and then just quickly on situation, if it is something that you do suffer with in kind of more nervy situations, whether it's in a comp or first tee in front of the clubhouse or wherever like that. It was Mark Crossfield, the podcast of his I was listening to, and he was saying, "Look, just do it more, right? You can't avoid it. Just do it more. That's the only way you're going to get better is putting yourselves in those situations, or trying to create some pressure in your practice that's going to help you get used to them a little bit more."
Yeah,
You can all stripe it 10 out of 10 times on the range. Like it's not hard. There's no pressure there. Put yourselves in those situations. Add a little bit of consequence to your practice, and you should see that hopefully change. But it's also something that if you're trying to break 80 for the first time, or shoot your best ever round, that's going to be a situation that you've never been in before. So it's just something to take account for, and it's another reason why your swing could potentially change.
Yeah, and I think with all of these things, we're trying to emphasize all of the different factors that go into it. But ultimately, with all of these things, again, as you said, they're like exposing yourself to these things does build resilience.
Yeah,
So exposing yourself to bad weather, eventually you just get better at playing in bad weather, right? Like, you just start to manage and start to deal with it. But if you can understand that your movement will change in those situations, then you just need to be able to handle that in that way. You might not hit a specific shot if you know that that's your, maybe some people when they get nervous slice it right, maybe
yeah,
when they get nervous, right? So in that case, maybe in the situation, you just need to think that this possibly could happen and make, adjustments to there. But yeah, we're basically trying to say, and all through this is going to be a theme, is being aware there's many, many factors that can affect the way that
yeah.
you're going to swing it in that moment. And yeah, we felt this was important today. So I think it's good so far. Right, what's next on the list? Which again, I think is probably going to be your favorite one. It's going to be my guess. The next one.
So we have body. We're going to call it body. So how our body feels, whether that's potentially if we're fatigued, if we're stressed, if we've trained that morning, the day before, if we haven't recovered properly, if we haven't slept well, how your body feels can massively change how your swing feels or how potentially you're delivering the club. To the ball. I had a really interesting one on Saturday. So we're Monday today. God, we're not even Tuesday. We're Monday today. I went to the range on Saturday, trained on Friday, felt quite stiff but pretty strong. Like I'm kind of 4 or 5 weeks into a really solid training plan that I've been following quite consistently. The ball just seemed to fly. Like I was looking down at my Garmin that I use for data. The ball was going 5-10 yards further than I was used to completely, and I think it's just because that little bit of stiffness. But once that got warmed up, I just felt so much stronger.
Yeah.
And if that had happened on the course, I'd be over clubbing for probably like the first 3-4 holes until I got used to it and actually understood why it was going a little bit further. It can make a massive difference, and vice versa, the opposite. If you're fatigued, or if you've not slept, or I had a client call me earlier. He played in the major up at his club he was up till silly o'clock, then first tee time off, and tripled the first. It's like that's the opposite, right? Your body felt like absolute death, so you're not going to be able to play your best golf.
Yeah, 100%. This is a big one that affects me. I'd probably say of all of the 5 that we're going to go through, I'd probably say I get most affected by this one.
Yeah,
It's just if I don't train great or very often, I feel. I know it sounds weird for a lot of stuff we talk about, but I feel a bit loose. I feel a little bit unstable. I feel a little bit disconnected, and just don't really feel nice, strong, stiff, and stable.
yeah,
How I know that I play my best golf in that state. I think we played the other week, and I said to you, I feel just like a bit stiff and a bit off.
yeah,
And you said, "Why, you've been training a lot?" I said, "No, the opposite.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you haven't been training enough." And then I feel a bit weird. So it's all to do with what your norm is, right? In the same way,
Absolutely.
if you've got someone that doesn't train often and then they go and start a new program and they want to go and play that week, their body's not going to be in the same state as it was previously,
Yeah,
and they're going to swing different. They might be a little bit stiff, they're going to swing it different. If you've been sat down at your desk all day and then going to try and play in the evening, you're going to swing it different. So if you've got up, done your morning stuff that you normally do, and then go out and play in the afternoon, like this stuff makes a big difference to how you move. It makes a big difference, and we know that in golf, actually, only a small difference makes such a big difference to result. So, yeah, it's absolutely key. I'm trying to think if we missed anything on that section, like fatigue. You mentioned dehydration, stiffness, previous training, nutrition probably could be
nutrition,
thrown in there.
absolutely.
Also,
Yeah,
having a hangover, that's
yeah,
not going to help.
yeah,
All of these things. Too much coffee. I've heard that one before. Too much
yeah,
coffee for
yeah,
putting. Like all of this stuff is going to affect you. Um, you know, we've listed 5 in categories here. We probably could have listed 100 if we were to divide them out of categories. And this is why we wonder why this game is so difficult.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's really just touching on what you just said there. This is all about kind of deviating from what your norm is, right? If you're one of those guys that Joe mentioned earlier that just gets up, first tee goes straight away after a little bit of a hangover and plays fairly well. If he did the opposite, right? If he got to the tee, if he got to the club 30 minutes early, did an extensive warm up, had a full night's sleep, like he would play different. His swing would feel different, right? It's what you're
That is
used
so
to. It's,
true.
it's
Yeah.
what your norm is. And we're kind of saying, kind of any deviation off that, whether positive or negative, that's going to create a difference in potentially how you're swinging the club.
It's such a good example. I've heard this story of it wasn't one of my clients, but it was one of my client played with him in the club championships recently, and this guy's known for just rocking up hungover, not really interested. Might even have a couple of beers on the way around. And he's a decent player, a single fig handicapper, decent player, and he said that he was going to take the club champs seriously this year. Practiced really hard the week before, had a really good night's sleep, got there early, like whatever, played awful.
Yeah.
It's like it was almost like he was building up the situation. There you go. Number one, was building up the situation. He changed the condition of his body. So him
Yep.
warming up, him doing his things, changed his position. It might have made him more mobile, which would have affected things and changed things out of sequence. So this again, like this all works in reverse as well. We're not trying to say, if you want to play your best golf, you have to do this, this, and this, which we always say. It's actually like it works both ways.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it really does work both ways. If you're a good player and you're stiff, if you become less stiff, it's going to affect the way they move.
Yeah.
And for a while, that might make you worse. That potentially could happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Joe, bring us on to number 5.
Yeah, it's a good one. This. So, this is a little bit out of our realm, a little bit less away from where we make our living, but it's something that I hear all the time on the golf course. It's something I see with my own eyes regularly, and it's thinking about the golf swing. Whether you've recently had a lesson, whether you've recently been diving through YouTube videos or watching endless content, I really see a difference in people's golf swings when they've significantly gone away and thought a lot about the golf swing. And sometimes it works, but it definitely can also be the opposite. And this is where we start to see this week on week change, day on day change, because this morning I watched this video on Sky Sports and it changed my thought of X, Y, and Z. Sometimes people hit it a lot better. Sometimes people don't hit it as well. And I think it's definitely worth having in your mind that these short-term things that you're consuming are going to have an effect on the way that you move on that day, but they're probably not going to be long-lasting changes if you're, in not great on podcasts, but like inverted commas, like rebuilding your golf swing in that way. That it's different. This information you're receiving and changing your movement is different to working on improving your golf swing in the same way, and that's something people need to be considering.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to read. It was a really good post, literally and completely. It was yesterday actually that the COD coach Andrew Reynolds posted this. I just want to read it quickly. When it comes to your golf swing, you're the racing driver, not the mechanic. You don't need to understand the minute intricacies of technique. You only need to understand the feels that work for you. It's a swing coach's job to understand swing theory. Your job is to get the ball in the hole. And then it's got a little picture next to it with two books. One's tiny, which basically how much you need to understand about your golf swing and your feels, and then the other one is a massive one, how much you think you need to understand about your golf swing. Like,
Yeah,
so true. The amount of times I played with golfers on the course trying to make changes, trying to come up with stuff when they're playing during the round, like, just don't. Really don't do it. That, like, it's like you said at the start of the podcast, to make swing changes, like, that's a long, lengthy process. It's probably taken me more than 18 months to change how I deliver the club from really steep to starting to slightly getting it shallower now. And it's taken even longer to take that to the course, right? On the range, and when I'm practicing, it's completely different, the kettle of fish, to when you add situations in. Then that's always going to come back. Your thoughts can really change how you're delivering the club, and especially, like, one I'm sure a lot of golfers can relate to is just commitment. Stepping up to a shot, whether maybe you're in between clubs or on a line, you're not really sure if there's mud on the ball, how it's going to react, like, and then just not being committed. The amount of swings that I've seen from really good golfers that are, like, way away from how they would swing a club because their thought was slightly different. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah. Definitely go and give COD Coach a follow for
Yes,
anyone who's listening
absolutely.
that doesn't already. But yeah, 100% agree. Like, that's what we're getting at, right? Like, we're really trying to emphasize the fact that there is 1 million um, different reasons for why we swing the golf club, how we swing it, and those things can definitely change day to day. And hopefully today's given a little bit of an overview on our belief on golf and golf performance and how things occur and why things happen in the way they do. And hopefully it's going to save some people some shots and make people also take things a little bit more uh, in a bit more of a curious manner rather than a frustration manner when they
That's
have a
what,
good
yeah,
or bad day.
that's what I was just about to say. Hopefully, it saves people a little bit less stress to understanding why they're not playing exactly how they did the week before or the day before. Like, there's so many things that a lot of them aren't in your control. The weather, the situation sometimes can't be in your control. How your body feeling, like, you might be stressed at work. That's like, none of that's in your control. So just give yourself a little bit more leeway, and then if you're a bit more relaxed, hopefully it will help you shoot better rounds and just kind of enjoy the game rather than being frustrated at yourself.
Agreed. And I also sometimes see that better players suffer more with this.
Mm.
Definitely some of the pros that I've worked with that I've been out on the course with them or on the range with them. And we have good discussions on how they're feeling that day because really their bodies are so much more fine tuned than someone playing of a higher handicapper. When you're playing at that level, the degrees of change within their swing is so much tighter that a smaller change makes a bigger difference to them.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
the better you get, the more these things start to make a difference. The better you get, the more that your clothing being a little bit tighter makes a bit more of a difference, or a little bit windy makes a little bit more of a difference, or you feel a tiny bit stiff in one leg more than the other leg makes it a little bit more of a difference. And these variances become smaller and smaller. And I think it's harder for people on lower handicaps to cut themselves a break often because their expectations are higher. But again, and often those people are the people that rush back to technique and flaws in technique. But there are a million different factors and a million different reasons why your body might move differently one day than it does another day. And I think that's a better way of finishing it for today is why your body moves one way different to another day.
Yeah.
It just so happens to be that you're swinging the golf club on that day.
Yeah,
It can
absolutely.
be transferred to everything, right? You walk different day to day, you sit
Yeah,
different day to day, you stand different day to day. Everything's different day to day. Nothing
yeah.
can be the same.
Never.
Just that day you're playing golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. I love that. Guys, as always, if you've got any other questions or any other kind of topics you want us to cover, send them in. Joe, where can they find you?
Yeah, best place is Instagram, Joe at Joe underscore macro golf.
Yep, I'm exactly the same at Sam underscore macro golf. Um, yeah,
Oh,
awesome.
good.
All
Yeah.
good, all good, all good.
Well, we've got to mention the app, right? We can't leave without mentioning the
Got
app.
to mention the app. Go on, Joe. Talk
Yeah.
to us about the app.
So there is the macro golf app, of course. So all the stuff we've been talking about today in terms of warming up, in terms of being stiff from training, we can deliver that for you. We can make you warm. We can make you stiff from training through the macro golf app. So no, if you want to work on your warm up procedures, your recovery from golf, if you want more information on nutrition for golf, if you want some golf fitness training plans, if you want golf mobility videos, if you want speed training plans, if you want all of the stuff that me and Sam have been discussing on this podcast for the last few months, you can now get that for what we're talking. Price of a coffee? Price of a coffee a week?
Price of a coffee a week, absolutely. Yeah.
Coffee a week, around that amount. You can get access to all of the help as if we're there with you via the Macro Golf app. So you can head to macrogolfonline.co.uk/app. From there, you can sign up. You can get access to a free 7-day trial. And you can also get 10% off by using the code PODCAST, all in capitals, podcast, and I'll give you 10% off your subscription for as long as you are a member as well.
Amazing. Awesome, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you next week.